Greetings and welcome back for another Music Theory Bite. In this video, I'm going to discuss how to identify seventh chords. If that sounds like something you'd like to learn more about, then this is the video for you. But before you watch this video, make sure you check out my other videos on seventh chords, including my video on spelling seventh chords, my video series on singing the various tonal seventh chords. I have one for major seventh chords, dominant seventh chords, minor seventh chords, and diminished seventh chords. And you may also want to check out some of my other videos because those things will give you some of the background that you will need in order to understand what's going on in this video. So if you're ready, let's begin. So there's a little bit of information that you have to know in order to do this effectively. First of all, you have to know the component scale degrees of each of the types of tonal seventh chords. Typically, we'll hear major seventh chords as tonic chords in the major mode, consisting of scale degrees 1, 3, 5, and 7, although we might hear them also as subdominant chords in the major mode, consisting of scale degrees 4, 6, 1, and 3. There are some other combinations that show up, but we tend not to hear major seventh chords as those combinations. Dominant seventh chords only show up in two places. That is, as the dominant seventh chord, or the 5-7 chord in major and minor, consisting of scale degrees 5, 7, raised 7 in minor, 2, and 4, and as the subtonic seventh chord in minor, consisting of scale degrees 7, lowered 7 that is, 2, 4, and 6. Typically, we're going to hear it as the dominant seventh in either major or minor, and if we hear it as that subtonic seventh chord, what we're really hearing is a dominant seventh to the relative major. So it's going to sound like a dominant seventh no matter how we do it. Minor seventh chords, we typically hear them as scale degrees 2, 4, 6, and 1, that is the supertonic seventh chord in the major mode, or as the tonic seventh chord in the minor mode, consisting of scale degrees 1, 3, 5, and lowered 7. The minor seventh chord also frequently is heard as a submediant seventh chord in the major mode, consisting of scale degrees 6, 1, 3, and 5. And sometimes that can cause a little bit of confusion because we don't typically sing it that way, but oftentimes we will hear it that way. So keep in mind that that one is there. It also shows up in a couple of other places, but ordinarily we don't hear it as one of those. Half-diminished seventh chords show up in two places, as the leading tone seventh chord in the major mode, the one we typically hear, as scale degrees 7, 2, 4, and 6, and as the supertonic seventh chord in the minor mode, consisting of scale degrees 2, 4, lowered 6, and 1. And finally, the fully diminished seventh chord only shows up in one place, and that's as the leading tone seventh chord in the minor mode, consisting of raised 7, 2, 4, and lowered 6. So what we need to do then is take this knowledge of these combinations of scale degrees that form these various qualities of seventh chords and use that to figure out which seventh chord we are hearing. It's important to remember that we can't always control how we hear things. We can only control how we react to them. So sometimes you might hear a combination of scale degrees that doesn't match up cleanly with your first choice seventh chord for that particular quality, in which case you have to figure out what are the scale degrees that are there and what type of seventh chord or what quality of seventh chord does that create. So let's try a few of these. So if we start just by dealing with chord quality, we're not going to deal with inversion at all. Everything's going to be in root position. What I have to listen for is the combination of scale degrees that go into the structure. I can do that by listening for the lowest pitch, which is always going to be the chord root. If I can identify that scale degree, and I know what quality of seventh chord is built on that scale degree, then I know the quality of the chord that I just heard. The only complication with that is the diminished seventh chords. The half-diminished seventh chord and fully diminished seventh chord both sound like they start on scale degree 7. So what I have to listen for, if I think it's a diminished seventh chord, is the seventh of the chord. In the major mode, it's going to be that raised 6th scale degree, and in the minor mode, it's going to be the lowered 6th scale degree. So I listen for how that pitch wants to resolve, and when it resolves down to 5, if it does it by half step, I know it's a fully diminished seventh chord. If it does it by whole step, I know it's a half-diminished seventh chord. So let's talk process. If I'm asked to identify the quality and inversion, then what I'm listening for first generally is inversion. And I'm going to do that by listening for whether there's a second in the texture. If the second's on top, it's first inversion. If the second's in the middle, it's second inversion. And if the second is on the bottom, it's third inversion. And if I don't hear a second at all, it's got to be root position. Next, I start working on quality. And notice that if I can't hear that second, I can't hear the inversion, I'm going straight to quality. In which what I do is I find the easiest scale degree for me to hear, and I try to figure out what that is, because the chord itself is telling me what scale degree makes it up if I'm listening closely enough. So once I figure out what one of the scale degrees is, then I start listening for the other scale degrees. And if I get 2 or 3 of the scale degrees, I have a pretty good idea which 7th chord it's likely to be. Alright, I've got my app set up. It's set so that it could play any of the tonal 7th chord qualities in any inversion. So what I typically want to do first, after I listen to the chord, is I want to figure out the inversion if I can. And I'm going to do that by finding if there's a second in there. Now, if I'm not hearing that second clearly, what I want to do then is I want to figure out 1 or 2 of the scale degrees that I hear. So let's see what happens. A couple of random 7th chords, see if I can figure out what they are. Bum, 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 bum. So I'm hearing a second on the bottom, which means it's got to be a 4-2, a third inversion 7th chord. Now, if you didn't hear that second, let's go on to the next step, which we have to do anyway, to find out some of the scale degrees. Bum, 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 bum. That top pitch is sounding an awful lot like scale degree 6 to me. Da-dum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. So what I'm hearing then is if the top pitch is scale degree 6, working down, the next pitch below that would be scale degree 4, next pitch below that would be scale degree 2, and then I would have scale degree 1 underneath that. So what I think I'm hearing here is a half-diminished 7th chord in third inversion. And sure enough, I got that one correct. Let's try another one. Bum, 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 bum. So I hear a second in between the middle 2 pitches, which means this has to be a second inversion 7th chord. So I've got the inversion taken care of. Now I have to figure out what is the quality. Bum, bum, bum. That's sounding an awful lot like scale degree 1 to me. Dum, bum, 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 dum, bum. So I'm hearing 5, lowered 7, 1, lowered 3. This sounds like a minor 7th chord in second inversion. So let's see. Yep, that one is. Now notice how I did not hear that as a 2-chord supertonic chord in the major mode. I heard it as a tonic chord in the minor mode. Nothing wrong with that. I can't control how I hear it. I can only control how I react to it. So by figuring out, first of all, the inversion, then figuring out what scale degrees I'm hearing, I then figured out 1 was the root of the chord. I figured out what quality it was from that. All right, let's try another one. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. There's no second in there at all. This one's root position. Bum, bum, bum. I'm hearing it as 6, 5, 1, 6, 1, 3, 5, 3, 1. So this sounds to me like a minor 7th chord in root position. And sure enough, I got that one correct again. Again, another example of not hearing it as the way that I would typically sing it, as a 2-chord in the major mode. I heard it as a 6-chord in the major mode. Once I figured out what scale degree I was hearing as the root, then I figured out what component scale degrees were there, and then I knew that a 6-chord in the major mode takes a minor 7th chord. So I have to do a little bit of extra memorization in that, but I can come up with the right answer. Bum, 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 bum. I'm hearing a second in between the middle 2 pitches, so again, it's a second inversion chord. It's a 4-3 of some sort. Bum, 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 bum. I'm hearing that pitch as scale degree 1. So working down, that would be scale degree 6 would be the root of the chord. And that would mean that I'm dealing with another minor 7th chord in second inversion. And sure enough, it was. Let's try another one, see if we get something other than minor 7ths here. Bum, 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 bum. I'm hearing that pitch as scale degree 2. 2, 1. Now I'm also hearing there's a second bum, bum. And that second is at the bottom, meaning this is a third inversion 7th chord, a 4, 2. Bum, 4, 3, 1, 4, 5. That 5 tells me it's the root of the chord because it's the top pitch of the second. So this has to be a dominant 7th chord in third inversion, a 5, 4, 2, and sure enough, correct again. Let's try one more. Bum, 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 bum. I hear a second in there. It's at the top, so it's first inversion, and it's a minor second, and only one of these chords creates a minor second when you invert it. That would be a major 7th chord, but I could double check that. Dum, bum. That's scale degree 1. So I'm hearing 3, 5, 7, 1. Major 7th chord in first inversion. Correct again. Now I know I make it look easy, but I've been doing this a lot longer, and this takes practice. It takes a lot of practice. This is a skill that challenges my students every year, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of just doing it every day to get good at it. Don't expect to be perfect at it. Take some time and let yourself learn how to do this. Well, that does it for this video. If you found it helpful, please make sure you like it. As always, you can leave constructive comments below. And as always, make sure you subscribe to my channel for the latest music theory bites as they become available. Until next time.